here? Yeah, they're here. Okay, great, great. Okay, we're live, and I'm gonna hit record. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I have another fascinating episode for you guys today. I have with me my friend Rose Erkan. She's going to be co-hosting with me because I have special guests from Australia, Stephen and Evan Strong. A little bit about them: they're trying to share their understanding of ancient Australia is having a rich past that started long ago. Australia has been visited in the past by ancient Egyptians, Phoenicians, Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, along with the distinct possibility of an ancient extraterrestrial presence. They are trying to change the worldview of Australia, Aboriginal people, and the culture.
Yeah.
Wait,
What happened? Why did you? Hello?
this is
What
playing through someone.
happened?
Oh wait, hold on. Oh wait.
Are you having
Uh,
difficulties? I can host if you want.
no, it's fine. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry, I got it. Sorry. Wow,
Okay.
this is crazy today.
I
Um.
know it's really bad
Oh, let's
today.
see here. Um, is it playing through now? Okay. It says
Yeah.
Stephen and Evan have co-written a series of books, Constructing a New World Map, Mary Magdalene's Dreaming, and Forgotten Origin, or University Press of America. Both shunned published by Possible Press. The book ebook Ancient Aliens in Australia, Forgotten Origins of Humanity, co-written with Daniela Cardenas and Bruce Fenton, will be released soon. Stephen Strong is a secondary school teacher with a background in archaeology and education. He has spent many years learning and living with the tribes in the Bungalong Confederation of the Northwestern Gilmari people in the Southwest. And Evan has a background in sociology and psychology, I believe. And I want to give them a big warm welcome to the show. Stephen, Evan, Rose, thank you guys for joining me. How is everybody?
Thank
Well,
you. Not very good.
we've
No.
had some what would you say, stop press news come through this morning.
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
it's all hit us pretty hard.
Uh-huh.
what is going on? Do you want to tell it? And is there any way we can stop the destruction of this ancient site?
No, you've got to
Well, it's
understand
happened.
something. Yeah, it's starting to
Sorry.
happen.
Yeah,
no.
you've
got to
understand that Australia is a place right now where a lot of sacred sites are being deliberately destroyed. And it's not just Yukon Gorge. We're aware of three other sites we're fighting for at the moment. And I think they're all going to go the way of carrying on. So no, this is part of a deliberate pattern that's taken place over the last 5 years and continues to this day. So yeah, there's nothing you can do because this has been sanctioned by the Lands Council, sanctioned by the local council, sanctioned by the state government, and sanctioned by the federal government. And what are we? We're just people. So no, there's nothing to be done, and they have started destroying the site. Basically now, I'd say within a week, it'll be completely trashed. Now, this is the Gossamer Glyphs where they have the ancient Egyptian and Pleiadian writing. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. That's it exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's sort of interesting too, because what happened was when they started this subdivision, it hadn't been approved, and some people went on and cleared everything and destroyed all the trees and got fined $3,000, didn't they?
Yeah, because
now what they've done now is they know that they've called for submissions about the actual site. And I know that over 1,000 people have written submissions against the development. So what they've done now is they're going to destroy carry-on. So, and then by the time we get the meeting, there'll be nothing to defend because they've already broken it up. So all these submissions saying, don't do this, don't do that because of that, well, that doesn't exist anymore. It's now a pile of rubble.
And yeah, there is a video from our friend down there, Jake Kassar. He was just there. And it's under the guise of falling rocks and not being safe. Now, I'll tell you one thing. It has not changed in a decade. There's not one rock that's
not
moved
in 15 years we've been there. Not one rock has fallen there. Not one rock has fallen away. What they've done now is they've smashed all the rocks in top and broken them up into pieces so they will fall. And they've already destroyed the 1/3 of the whole wall. They've broken that up completely, and they're just going to fill the whole thing in with rocks and destroy it. So yeah, that's primarily what they've done. Evan's put up a video which is going out And if people want to have a look at it, they can find out primarily what's taken place there. But it is horrific. It really is. And what's interesting is what they're doing is they've decided the glyphs are not legitimate because of the statement that was made by, as they call it, a deranged Czech in 1975 who was walking out of those walls with a chisel in his hand. No hammer, no scaffolding, just a chisel. And they claim he did it. But we don't know his name, and we haven't got a stat deck. They also claim it was done by Sydney Uni students in the 1960s, didn't they?
Yeah.
But we don't have a name, and we don't have a stat deck. So with those pieces of compelling evidence telling us what it is, it's been decided from that point on that it is fake. Now, quite recently, they had the members of the Lands Council going around and telling everyone that the site is fake, it's graffiti, and they want it destroyed. Now, I'm bloody sure they knew this was coming on. We've had two different, Gabby Duncan and Kevin Duncan, have both said the grandmother tree is fake.
Yeah, Ken Duncan said
The grandmother tree is a tourist trap and fake. Gabby Duncan says the rest of it's graffiti and wants it destroyed, and now they're destroying it. But here's the point. The point is, at the moment, their evidence is based upon nobody. We don't have one name of a person saying, oh, I did this, I made it fake. We have other people prosecuting their story by saying this is what these people said, but I don't know their names and I don't know who they are, and we have no stat deck or written information or even an interview with someone saying that. And they said, but that's good enough. Now, in our case, what have we found there? Arnie Mini Mace found two objects there. And this was found between the walls. One is a bone and the other is a piece of metal. Now, what did we do? Well, for the piece of metal, we went to the top laboratory in Australia at Southern Cross University. I went and saw the head of the laboratory there, whose name is Graham Lancaster, who has 300 people that worked for him at that laboratory, and they begged permission to analyse the piece of metal that Arnie Mini Mace found there, and we've got the readout on it. 24% of it's not on from here. It's not on the periodic table. It doesn't exist on this planet. What they have told me is the aluminium that's remaining is harder than steel. And they told us if you could make that alloy, whatever it is, you would make billions of dollars because you've made something, aluminium, now stronger than any metal that's ever existed. And they don't know what the 24% is. Now we have that object there. We have a bone that was found there and is looked at by a CAT scan, the fractures unit and the CAT scan at a base hospital. And they said it's an ancient bone and it's human. They won't analyse it. We have all that sort of information. Plus we have just directly above where they're destroying the glyphs right now, directly above it, and they'll be probably driving their tractors over the bloody thing, is the oldest star chart in the world. It was analysed by Sydney Uni. And they gave us a date of 4,600 years, down to, I think it was 12 o'clock at night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that
But
exact.
the date, 2,500 BC, the month and the day and the time when that star chart was exactly in the right position. That's been destroyed too. The whole thing has been destroyed, and that's evidence. They're destroying this based upon people that we don't know. Now, what we did get is we got two academics from Egypt who have got PhDs in Egyptology. And what they did is they both took those walls and looked at it separately. They didn't discuss it with each other, then put up in a video, which we can show people, their reading of it. And they both came to the same conclusion. The writing was done by people at the highest level. It's not just public hieroglyphs. This is sacred hieroglyphs that they wouldn't even know about. It had to be done by people who were linked to the pharaoh for this to even happen. Now, what's his name? Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim, wasn't it?
Muhammad Ibrahim and
Who's the other one?
Yusuf Awan.
That's right. Yeah, they wanted to come to Australia. They actually asked to come to Australia 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like
And
that.
they said, we'd prove it to you. So the government decided they couldn't come because they would be a terrorist risk. Now, I've got to tell you, these guys both have a job in the university, the Cairo University. They're full-time lecturers, but they weren't allowed to come here because they were going to blow up Australia. Well, that's a lie. They were going to blow up their lies, but that's what we've got at the moment. We have the government destroying the site based on the non-testimony of a person without a name.
Isn't it convenient that there's a massive housing development that's going to be pretty near, within 300 meters?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a coincidence.
That the housing development is taking place and the meeting's going to take place. They're going to do a look at, I think it's about 2 or 3 days from now. So submissions close. But if you want to fight for the glyphs, they're not there anymore. So how can we use that as a reason to stop trashing the place if they've already trashed it? Now, we could be wrong about this. We could be reading things into this that we shouldn't, but we're having the trouble not reading things into it.
Yeah, and then you put it all together.
Yeah, and this is all a reason that they're trying to hide our real history from us, right? This is what it is. They don't want the real our real history to get out. Is that correct?
That is correct. You've got to remember something. That metal object I've spoken about, and there are 2 of them. There's 2 metal objects that have been found between the walls there. You've got to remember one thing about the first metal object. I'll tell you with the exact breakdown. It was 73% aluminium, 3% copper, 24% they couldn't recognize. Now, what's important about that, Robert, is that 73 and 3%. We looked at that. Alloys today that have copper and aluminium, the copper is between 10 to 12%. They have not done that sort of alloy. You've got to go back past 3,000 years ago when the aluminium alloys had between 2 to 4% copper. This has got 3%, which means if someone said to me, like people said, oh, it's just a recent piece of metal that they just dropped there. Think about this for a second, Robert. This is a piece of metal. Whatever that metal is, hardens the softest metal there is to make it the hardest metal ever. Why would you drop that and lose it? Why would you lose something that could make you billions of dollars? I know what humans are like. If someone says you've got something worth billions of dollars, they don't then say, I think I'll throw it in the ground and bury it. They don't normally say that, do they, Evan? They say, where can I find someone to do this? And let's begin today. So we know that just by looking at that particular piece of evidence that was found by a respected elder, Auntie Minnie Mace, and has been analysed, it doesn't belong. In fact, there's nothing like it in the world. So what do they say about that site? There's nothing to see here. It's a piece of graffiti because the blackfellas told us it was, didn't they, Evan? So we'll destroy it. And for my way of thinking, we're fighting for the Standing Stone site, which we're going to lose. We fought for not Goolagaia, but the one next to it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Duke Gorge, we fought for Goolagaia alongside. We lost that one. And I'm also fighting for another site in Queensland. I have no doubt we're going to lose that one again. All over this country, they are destroying sites ad infinitum. And to give you an idea how much it's become part of mainstream thinking, Rio Tinto, who destroyed Yukon Gorge and admitted that it was a dreaming story, the Seven Sisters dreaming story, and admitted that they blew it up completely. They then had an inquiry where Rio Tinto will find, how much was it, Evan? Nothing. Not 1 cent.
Well, they're going to have an internal investigation.
They had an internal investigation, found no one was to blame, and they paid no money. No one was taken to court. Then about a month ago, I read in the paper the Yukon Gorge admitted that they blew up another site and it caused minor damage. And you know what? After that day, there was no more comment about it. There was another sacred site not far from the one they blew up before. They admitted that they did it. They said, oh, there's been a little bit of damage there, but don't worry, we'll look after it. This is now par for the course in Australia. They are destroying anything that does not fit into the mainstream narrative of the past.
Yeah, and the key to our past is Australia, right? I mean, from what you guys have found out, it's where civilization started, right? You guys are proponents of the out of Australia theory. Could you guys talk about that a little bit? And was I right about that?
You are right about that. The best way to talk about it, let's talk about it from the point of view of what is accepted science within Australia. They may not like it, but it's accepted. Now, they tell you, when I was a kid, Robert, I was told the Aboriginal people who came to Australia 20,000 years ago, When I was a teenager, it went to 40,000 years. Then when I left school and started teaching, there was rumours of 60,000 years. Then it went to 65. Now it's at 70. Now that means during the time I've been alive, they've multiplied the date of entry by 3.5-fold. But now we've got Robert, who have we got at the moment? Jim Bowler.
Jim Bowler, yep.
Jim Bowler did some work. Now, he was the one who challenged the date of 60,000 years that Alan Thorne put up for Lake Mungo 1 and said it can't be right because the Africans didn't get here to 40,000 years ago. And he was the main person who hung on while they fought that fight. And guess what? What Jim Bowler has said now is I'm wrong. What happened was he's got a site where he got dates of 90 to 100,000 years and told people, yeah, it's good science. It's absolutely right. And he's the grandfather of archaeology in Australia, Robert. He's not just anybody. Everybody knows who he is. He's the man who found Lake Mungo. Everybody knows him. And what he then found was he said, I need more evidence, and he got it. And the dates he's getting now at this site at Warrnambool are 130,000 years. Now, here's the trick. The story was that someone came from Africa 50, 60, 70,000 years ago. Where we are at Warrnambool, what the story was, they came from the top, then they made their way around the coast, and it took about 20,000 years to get down to Victoria, where we are down there, which means the date of entry from Australia has to be 150,000 years. Well, man, they're telling us that humans came into existence 300,000 years ago in Africa. No one said they came out 150,000 years ago. Although I can tell you, Robert, there's now some evidence that's come out that said, no, we got it wrong. Humans started in Africa 300,000 years ago, and 275,000 years ago, they walked out of Africa and walked all the way to Asia. Now, my question is, how come you told us before it's 50,000 years? Now you're telling us 270. And why would a group of beings have just come into existence, why would they, within 20,000 years of coming into existence, walk through the whole of Africa, go through the whole of the Middle East, and make their way to Siberia and places in Asia? And here's the best part. According to the experts, because there's no other evidence in Africa, what happened was they did that for a while, and then all of them came back to Africa, and no one stayed behind. And by the way, that's a paper that's been put out, hasn't it, Evan?
It has, yeah.
And that's how they've described it. Oh, yeah, they were there 270,000 years ago. They walked from Africa. They were there for a while, spread their genes, and then came back to Africa, and none of them stayed there. That's not out of Africa anywhere. That's out of stupidity. It's out of being ridiculous, and doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Whereas in Australia, at the moment, we have 10 dates that are at least 6 figures in Australia. Now, every one of those dates we've got were found by academics, and then other academics would attack them immediately, wouldn't they, Evan? Straight away. So, yes, out of Africa didn't happen. And I'll tell you another reason why it didn't happen. Why is it the Africans, until about 2 months ago when they found this ancient Neanderthal strain inside them, before that, it was well known that Africans had no Neanderthal blood and no Denisovan blood. But I've got Denisovan, I've got Neanderthal. In fact, I've got the third highest reading Denisovan in the world. And they're telling us that the Africans are the oldest, and the old African Homo sapiens were from the same line as Denisovans and Neanderthal. They all came from the same mum and dad. But if that's the case, why do they have none of their genes there? So we have a problem that's come up on a daily basis with the genetics. It's not fitting in anymore. They're finding aberrant genetic readings that don't make sense. And I'll give you another one. Denisovans. They're a group of hominids who are around 750,000 years ago to 12,000 years ago, and are found only in Europe and Asia. But do you know which race has the closest genetic link to the Denisovans? The Australian Aboriginal people. I'm 4.7% Denisovan. No one over 2% can be anything but Aboriginal. But here's the trick. The Aboriginals are supposed to come from Africa, and once they got to Australia, they never left. The Denisovans were all over Asia and Africa and Europe, but never went anywhere else. So they didn't go to Australia, and the Australian Aboriginal people never left Australia. But here I am sitting in front of you with 4.7% Denisovan. Well, how did that happen? If we never left Australia and they never came to Australia, how come the original people have the highest Denisovan content in the world? So what we're looking at, mate, is when we look at the evidence that's been coming out recently all over the world, same story everywhere. You look at America, I think it was David Reich from Harvard University, worked with 6 other universities, and they worked on 2 groups of people in, I think it was the Amazon, wasn't it? The Tupu and the Geese speaking people. Why did they choose them? Because they only ever married each other. And they would not marry or breed with any other group. And they think, well, these guys will have the purest genes. And we'll find out where the American people came from. And the answer was repeated time after time. In fact, David Reich said we tried to make the answer go away. And every time we did, it came back stronger. The closest genetic link to those people is Australia and Papua New Guinea by a long way. And they made it very clear that the first people who came here were not from Asia. They weren't from France. They were from Australia. Now, that is well known throughout the whole of South America and to an extent in North America, but not known at all in Australia. There is no doubt. I mean, Walter Neves, doesn't he have 55 Aboriginal skulls from Brazil? There's a skull called Penon Woman that's 25,000 years old. And Silvio Gonzalez, who was working on it, said there's no doubt it's Australian Aboriginal. So when you look around the world and you look for the first people, if you look for the oldest hominin.
I'm sorry, I have to pause. I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry. Just one moment.
Okay.
Nice. Oh, yes, yes. Sorry.
Someone is scrolling.
Right.
I need to take photos.
Why do you need to take a photo?
You can face it down.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll
Thank
just-
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So yeah, but you can
I'm
look at
really
that.
sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Steve.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, you can also look at there's that photo we have of one of the original Ainus as well in Japan.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Look, we put this up for a long time. If you've heard of the Ainu, they're the original people in Japan before the Asians came across from China. And they came across about 4,000 years ago. Before that, the whole place was populated by the Ainu. Now, we had a picture of an Ainu in 1896. It was taken by Herman Klatch, who came to Australia trying to prove that Australia was a beginning place. And what we've done is we used to put it up in talks and tell people if they could pick within 500 kilometres of where this original person came from, we give them $100. And we did that for about 5 goes and no one got it right. And the reason was he looked so Aboriginal. They said Papua New Guinea, they said Armand Land, they said the middle of Australia. They never said Japan because he came from Japan. He has got frizzy black hair. He's got a wide, broad nose, and he looks so Aboriginal that there's no doubt.
Yeah, because people are like, oh, he's from a neighbouring tribe.
Yeah, well, some people said, I know that man. He's from
yeah.
a neighbouring tribe from where I come from. He's our neighbour. Said, no, he's not, bud. Oh, I'm going to get the money here because I know him. I've met him. He didn't. He was from Japan. You've got to understand, before the Asians started to spread through the whole of Asia, the original people already had. The oldest Homo sapien found skull, to 12,000 years old, is found in Malaysia. He's not Asian. He's Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginal. And you go to India, quite recently, they did a mitochondrial DNA survey of the people from the south of India, the Dravidians. And there, out of the 900, they found, Dr. Rao found 7 people there. And the words he used, which had unique Australian Aboriginal genetics. They had no Indian in them at all. They were still pure original people. So this is the evidence that's coming out around the world that's telling us one thing. The whole story out of Africa. And of course, the reason they say it's out of Africa is they say that's where monkeys began. Did you know that's wrong, Robert? The monkeys.
I did not know that.
No, they've only just discovered it, haven't they, Evan?
Yeah.
They're founding species of monkeys now that are 9 million years old. And they predate any monkeys found in Africa. In fact, some people are writing papers now saying that all people in the world come from Europe because of the fact they found these monkeys. But they're working on the assumption that monkeys make humans, and they don't. The point I'm making now is that what they're saying about the out of Africa theory is, number one, Who's the top archaeologist in the world?
Chris Stringer.
Chris Stringer said this. The date is wrong. It's not 250,000 years when humans came to existence. It's 750,000 years and we don't know where. That is the real archaeology of today. And what they are saying for sure is the one place we know it isn't is Africa. It's somewhere else. That part's been done and dusted now. There is so much evidence coming out now that contradicts it. Do you realise that when we say we came out of a monkey, mummy and daddy, and then they included Neanderthal and Denisovan, do you realise at the moment now there are 17 different hominids that were running around this country 15,000 years ago? 17. And some of them look nothing like us, completely different. But we're told that all of these hominids came out of one monkey, mummy, and one monkey, daddy. Well, it's not possible anymore. It's basically genetically impossible for that to take place. And now they're writing papers saying that relatives of humans were around over 1 million years ago. And in the same paper, they tell us, and I've got a paper that said this, haven't I?
Mm-hmm.
They say that relatives of ours were walking around over 1 million years ago, and we came into existence 250,000 years ago. And our relatives were around 3 times longer than that. Duh, there's some mass in there that doesn't add up. That is the current state of affairs when it comes to mainstream science. They don't have a clue. So the out of Africa theory is utterly wrong on every level. And let me close with this. I'll give you one more example of why it's wrong. And it's the most obvious example. And there's not one scientist, I've raised this with many, they won't talk to me when I say this. And it's to do with the 4 of us that are on this show at the moment. Rose, myself, Evan, and Robert. All 4 of us at the moment. Do you know what we share? Nothing. There are 7 billion people on this planet and none of the faces are the same. 7 billion people on this planet that weigh between 30 kilos to 300 kilos, that stand between 0.5 metre to 2.5 metres tall, that have completely different fingerprints, that have completely different eye patterns, have completely different heartbeats. We are the only animal on this planet that begs to differ. If you were to get a group of, say, zebras in a herd together and you didn't look at the marks on their face and you just looked at them without the marks, you wouldn't be able to tell any of them apart. Now, let's take our so-called mummy and daddy. Let's take a chimpanzee. Well, do you know what? All male chimpanzees look roughly the same. And so do the females. And they weigh the same. They move at the same speed. We don't move at the same speed. They do everything the same. When it comes to humans, there's one thing about humans that's consistent. You've got people with Downs. You've got dwarf people. You've got giant people. You've got all different types of people. And none of us look the same. We are not, we did never come from one mother and one father, but 16 different hominids came from that group. It's not possible, it's impossible. So therefore, what we are finding around the world today is people are finally coming to the state where Chris Stringer says, I don't know what the answer is anymore. I have no idea. And by the way, one of the people we're working with who looked at one of our skulls we've got, and said it's not a Homo sapien, it's not a hominin, he's basically one of his top apprentices, isn't he, Evan?
That's right.
And he's seen one of the skulls we've got and he said, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. Well, we do. It's an alien. And that is why...
I was just going to ask you about that. I was going to say, where did the aliens fit in?
Because what that does is the alien we've got at the moment, right? The one we've got skulls and we've got pictures of it, we can look at it. When you get to the eyebrows up here, there's nothing. The whole skull runs back at more than 180 degrees and runs all the way back for 19 mils. And then what happens is it runs back into a flask, and round the back of the flask here, right at the back of the skull, it's 17 mils across. Our skull is 13 mils across. Now, Robert, I want you to think about something. How does a woman dilate to 10 centimeters when the skull of this being I'm talking about, which doesn't have sutures, right? No sutures have been found on it, and it's 17 at the back. Do you know what? That would kill any woman. They could not give natural birth to these beings that have been found here. Now, these beings, I've got one. Their eyes are 46% larger than ours. They've got a completely different nose structure to us. Their chins are different. Their forehead is different. Their whole body is different to us. And here's what happens. You put down a monkey and you put that together and you mix them up. Now you've got the variety you need. You put down any hominid you want to look at, a sapien, and you mix them up with this one here, then the eyes are different, the forehead's different. Look at our eyebrows. You know how we've got a depression in the center? This being has a peak in the middle there, and their nose starts up here where the eyebrows are. It starts above there. It's a massive nose, isn't it?
It is huge.
It's an elephant nose, believe me. And it's got eyes 46% bigger than ours. It couldn't even come out during the daytime. Well, what's interesting about this being that I've picked up and looked at is its femur bone. So, yeah, not its femur bone, its humerus bone, which is the funny bone, you know, the one that goes from your shoulder to your elbow.
Yeah.
Yours will be between 29 and a basketball might be 31. This one I picked up, and I picked it up and put it against, and I picked it up out of the actual burial site. It went down to about there. And I measured it at 43, but there was no elbow joint, which means it's got to be at least 46, 47. There is no animal on this planet. Gibbons are 35. This is 47. And it's twice as thin as a gibbon's arm. Now, what I'm looking at there is an arm that's ridiculous. I've got a head that slopes backwards at about 120, 190, 200 degrees backwards and runs and thickens out right at the back, which means it's got a different neck than ours. That's not a normal being. It's our ancestor. You put that together with whatever we've got around here, and what comes out of it is diversity. Because your mummy and daddy aren't the same, they're completely different. And that's why humans, unlike all primates, unlike orangutans, unlike gorillas, unlike all of those animals, they look roughly the same. Same face, same coloured hair, same eye shape, same mouth shape. Everything's the same. And then you look at humans and you tell us we came from them, they'd look at us and say, you're joking, man. I don't know what you look like, and you're all different. How come you're running at 32 Ks and you're running at 4? We all run the same pace. We are different because we were bred to be different, because our genetics is partially from here and partially from up there. That's simple. And by the way, the carry-on site has got a lot to say about just that, which is one of the reasons why it's being destroyed.
Yeah, Rose, did you have a question or any question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what's the best thing to do about carry on, because I'm really worried, you know, after seeing the videos this morning. What's the best thing that people can do?
Okay. So I was talking to Jake, well, Jake was sending me messages earlier because they haven't been completely destroyed. I think he was wanting, you know, and he's got 1,000 things on himself because he's right on the front line. But he was hoping people that live locally could check on it every day.
Yeah.
Could progress updates. So anyone that's listening that or knows someone that lives in the Central Coast or even Sydney, because it's only about an hour's drive.
Yeah.
It would be good to, although in saying that, I don't want to be liable for someone trying to crawl in there because it's very, very unsafe at the moment.
Jake said now it was never unsafe before. He said there's one rock that fell about 10,000 years ago. Now, he said it's now 1,000,000 times more dangerous than it was before because they've deliberately smashed the rocks on top and they're cracking.
So
what they want to do is trash the whole thing, fill it up to the top with broken rocks so no one will ever see it again.
So yeah, it's a really hard one. Like, we need to keep an eye on it, but I don't want anyone to hurt themselves with good intentions to go there because it looks really, really unsafe.
Another one would be to contact your local parliamentarian, and particularly if you're in Carry-On region, for Christ's sake, you've got a local person there that should be, and I think I know her name. I'm going to ring up when we finish talking to you. I've got to ring some people from Gosford to chase other people up. And the other thing I would do is I'd spread it to everyone, you know, to tell people.
And then maybe keep spreading, you know, that objection submission thing that you sign that, Rose.
I find that.
If everyone could, it can't look. There's 1,000.
Yeah.
Let's make it several thousand. Let's get everybody saying that they don't want that land touched, and
Mhm.
bringing up national parks and wildlife and asking why are they destroying the site, which they can't prove. We can't
Yeah.
prove that it's legitimate, but they can't prove that it isn't legitimate. That's my point. They need evidence. I've got evidence. I mean, I've got a stat deck written in 1958 by a person who was taken there by the secretary of what was National Parks and Wildlife at the time. And you know what he told her when she was 10? Number one, keep this a secret. And number two, the Egyptians wrote that. Now, he was the secretary of what was National Parks and Wildlife, and I've got a stat deck signed by her. She's prepared to go to court saying I was there in 1958. Now, that is before
It's a
1975.
couple of decades before.
And it's just before the 1960s. Now, I've got a stat deck and I've got a human. What do they have? They've got no stat decks, no humans. I've also got evidence, 2 pieces of metal and a bone. I've also got the evidence of Sydney Uni saying that star chart that they're trashing, and they're only about 50 metres away from it right now, is the oldest in the world. They're facts. We have facts. What they have is rumours and people without names, without stat decks, without statements, without videos and nothing. What I don't understand is why is it no one listens to our evidence that's compiled and dated by Sydney Uni, that's been analysed by one of the top university laboratories in Australia. That's all I'm bringing in. I'm bringing in pure science that's been validated by scientists today. I can tell you that the people, that Graham Lancaster, whose name I'm allowed to use, has asked me to this day, why hasn't anyone reacted to that thing you've got? I said, mate, because we've got it. That's why they won't react to it.
So I guess keep spreading the word.
Yeah.
Keep getting people to sign that objection.
And
submission.
send that video to anyone you know. And everybody.
Yeah, okay. And also I saw the Reddit post and I was looking, there's a contact number, Central Coast Area Office. What's that about? Maybe we can contact them. Did you see that?
I'm looking at the Reddit post now.
It says high rock for risk. I don't know if you contact that number. Like, I don't know if it will.
on the sign. Okay.
It's just about the risk though. I don't know if it will help.
Yeah.
Well,
I think anything people can do. Well, look, I'm gonna say it. If people can kind of clog up the bureaucracy somehow,
Yeah.
do it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if
yeah,
everybody's
yeah,
phoning these
absolutely.
numbers and being annoying, then maybe that's
be
what we
annoying.
got.
Bring them up. Bother them all the
Yeah.
time. Keep bringing them time after time, because they don't have the right to destroy something simply because they say it's dangerous, because that means that every site in a national parks and wildlife that's dangerous, they're going to trash.
Yeah, and there's another way to look at it too, right? Okay, so maybe you're not into this ancient Egyptians thing, right?
Yeah, how can we get like Mormons?
So if you're not into that, think of it this way. The environment's been trashed. It's a national park. They
Yeah.
want to build in ecologically delicate land. There's koala habitat there. We all know in Australia how this, the plight for the koala is. We shouldn't be building in that because of that reason.
And it's gazetted as a sacred site. I want to make the point. It was gazetted as a sacred site. Then the New South Wales government, working with the Lands Council, are now trying to rezone it in a way that you can trash everything but the thing on the map that's marked, and 5 meters away from that, go for your life. They don't understand something about sacred sites. Original people have this belief in what's called ley lines, where these different sites are linked up and joined with one another. When you trash the line, you break the site. Well, they don't see that. And what's happening now is the government are encouraging lands councils to do what they're doing. And they're saying, we'll back you. We'll get you through there quickly. It'll be approved quickly, because we need more building houses, because we have people come in this country. We need more houses. So what we're going to do is we're going to find all the sacred land and make that where we put people. One way of doing things.
Oh,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
But anyway, it's a sad story.
It is, and but whatever people can do to spread the word, maybe be a bit of a pest.
Ring up people. If there's a phone number there, if 1,000 people bring the phone number up, they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
But you're saying they're going to fill it up with rocks, like in the...
No, they're doing it now.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it looks like one panel might have been removed.
It has been.
And then
Okay.
yeah, they're filling it up. I don't know. Someone said that there's an engineer. It looks like they're getting ready to concrete it, like pour
Oh my
concrete in.
God.
I don't know.
But they're not finished.
Yeah. So and in the video that Jake did, he said you could just put 2 bracings up, even though the rock hasn't probably moved in 10,000 years.
It hasn't.
You could put up 3 braces. There you go, solved.
Yeah.
But no, they decided to do it instead. So I mean, what's next? The grandmother tree?
Well, they said it's a tourist trap. They
So
should chop. In fact, they have damaged the grandmother tree.
So that would be how many hundreds of years old?
600-700.
Yeah, it's the biggest Angoffer I've ever seen.
It's the biggest Angoffer in the whole of the national park there, and they want to destroy that too because of the fact that, oh, that's right, it attracts, what does it attract? Cults and witches, doesn't it?
Yeah, people go there and do weird things like lay on the rocks and meditate.
And hold the tree, and the original people said they're cultists. They didn't mention the name of the cult. They didn't give us the number of cultist people have been there and witches that have been there, but we've got to trust them. They said they're cultists and witches, so that's good enough. Yeah, it's really a sin to hold a tree or to give reverence to a sacred site. You should really, it should look at it from the point of view is how can I make money out of it, which is what they're doing.
Yeah, it's already happened with a golf course at Lake Entrance.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a country club there and there was a sacred site there. So, you know, this is, and then I'm sure there's more to come. I don't think they'll just stop with this.
We might have to get off this soon.
Yeah.
We have a thunderstorm coming.
We got a huge thunderstorm coming through. So,
Oh, okay.
Well, it was a pleasure having you guys. I mean, thank you so much. Sorry about the technical issues in the beginning. You know, I'm still going to put it out. But and do you want to tell everybody where they can find you guys? And thank you so much.
Okay, so there's 2 places you can find all our articles on forgottenorigin.com. And if you want to watch our monthly conferences, online events, it's Our Alien Ancestry. Encourage people to join as a subscriber because then you get access to the 35 other conferences we've done. And we've had all sorts of people on there. So yeah, they're the 2 ones for the conferences, which is Our Alien Ancestry, and Forgotten Origin is
the articles. And there's about a dozen, maybe 15 articles on Carry On there. People can find out more.
And then you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, all those things. We're floating around. So yeah, thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you. And Rose, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, I just want to say if people are in physical proximity to Carry On, it would be good if they just focus their intention and pray, because it's really important that we just, try and help that situation as much as we can. Because my mentor, Valerie Barrow, she was like a big advocate of praying. So yeah, if we could do that, I think that would help.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
Anyways, yeah, I'm just at roseerkan.com.
Okay.
I have Facebook as well. Yep.
And you have a YouTube, right? You have a YouTube.
And YouTube,
channel.
sorry, yep, YouTube. Yep. I'll post this on YouTube too, on my channel.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, everybody. All right.
Yeah, good night.